Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be back with another Founder Spotlight series. Today, I have Ehsan from Functionland. Thank you so much for joining, Ehsan.
Thank you, Eric, for having me. And hi,
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, absolutely. So it's delighted to have you. So let's talk about your startup, Functionland. Tell us about it. How did the idea come about, and what does it do?
Yeah. So me and Kayvon, actually, we've been software developers for many years. And we were seeing a gap between consumers world and developers world. Like as developers, we had access to these innovative free tools that we just install on our laptop and use it. And every year, actually every month, there is a new feature added to it. And the reason behind it is in developers world, there is thousands of open source developers who are contributing to projects. In the consumers world, on the other hand, you have to wait for a big company to release a new update for your application. And that comes at a cost. Like they either in a new update, they either change the pricing, they show you more ads, like what happened with
Right.
YouTube, what happened with Google Photos, like they removed the free tier of their photos. So these gaps are what we were thinking about for a few years. And then we saw like Google was removing the free tier from its Photos app. So we saw it as, a rock pool of a big company, and we were heavy users of Google Photos. So what we did was we created a free open source alternative of that application, initially specifically Google Photos.
Right.
But then we thought, okay, like if we want to give it for free, then how can it be sustainable?
Right.
And then we did some research. We got introduced to blockchains that already exist, like Filecoin, Definity. And like the idea grew from there, like how we can translate the experience that developers have to the consumers world, something that is easy for them to use, something that doesn't require technical knowledge. And that's where Functionland actually came to life. And the goal here is to make the consumers owners of their data and monetize open source application development for developers.
Right.
In this way, and the way that we achieve it is the main cost that the developer has is the server cost. Even Netflix, with its all like hugeness,
Right.
the main cost that they have is paying for the servers that they host their data on.
Right.
And that's what's actually draining the developers' pockets. So we are creating a new ecosystem where the users' data exists with the users, which is both for the developer, they are not paying for the data, for hosting data anymore. For users, they are the only one who has access to their data. So it's a win-win situation.
Right.
And then we added, we used the blockchain ecosystem to monetize development creations of developers, basically.
Right on. So what stage is Functionland at right now?
So we created a few partnerships for our main components. We have three main components, like the hardware, which is if you want to host your data, you need a hardware. It's not possible without a hardware to host your data. Even, like in some, like right now, actually, a lot of people are hyped about Web3.
Right.
And, but the thing is, still Web3 in the current, in today's world, it's using Web2 infrastructure. So my NFTs are right now hosted on AWS. It's not decentralized. A lot of metaverse projects, they are on AWS.
Right.
So it's not really decentralized. We are not getting the full potential of Web3. What enables us to achieve the full potential of Web3 is a new infrastructure. And that's what we are building. That's what we are aiming with the hardware, to allow individuals to have a plug and play hardware that operates like an Apple TV, for example.
Right.
They plug it and that's it. So that's one of our components. The other part of our components is protocols, which enables application developers to easily create an application. That's also not something that is possible right now. Like to create an application, a developer needs to go through like hundreds of pages of documentation or learn a new language. We wanted to enable them to use their current language. They shouldn't need to go through like documentations, and they should be able to create an application. So our protocol is another component, and then the blockchain to monetize everything. So for blockchain, we created this partnership with Parity, and it's moving like forward. We are aiming to launch our testnet by end of this year. For protocols, we are like partnering with Fusion. They have this and Protocol Labs actually. Both are very mature in the protocol side, so we are combining what they've built and adding some pieces of ourselves to it, so that it's easy to use for developers.
Right.
And also, actually, for that, it's already ready. We are just adding a few glue pieces together, and it will be also ready within a month. And for our hardware, we manufactured we finalized the engineering. We manufactured one prototype, finalized everything, and it's now actually under it's being manufactured as we speak. So we are aiming to ship the first batch of the hardware and make it ready by end of this year.
Amazing. So what's the traction been like for the consumer? So can they just get it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we actually we have two main target audience. One are developers who create applications. One are consumers who use those applications. And we got a very good initial traction on both sides. Like we released one of our applications, which is the open source Photos app. And from that application, from the traction that we got from developers, our GitHub ended up in the top 3% of projects, open source projects worldwide.
Amazing.
And we actually opened a 1-month pre-order campaign for the consumers to be able to order the hardware this year. And the reason we limited it to 1 month was we wanted to make sure that because of the chip shortage this year, we can secure, like the enough chips that we need. So we limited to 1 month, and during that 1 month, we got about 900 orders, which actually that makes us one of the biggest decentralized storage projects right now.
Nice, amazing. Yeah, congrats to you for executing on this project. So talk about like the decentralized versus centralized web. Like, what does it all really mean?
So, like what comes with decentralization is the control. In the centralized world, we have some control, like I can, for example, delete my tweets, but there are things that I can't control. For example, if a Twitter employee decides to block my account, I don't have any control over it because that's centrally controlled. Like they can even block the president of the United States, like for any reason. So they can do this to anyone, right? Or if they're like, even in some of the projects that we think are decentralized, like, like OpenSea, it's actually the face of NFTs in current world, but it's a centralized platform. They can ban users of like countries actually overnight. So they can still make decisions. What comes with a true decentralized world, like with decentralized infrastructure, is that control by a central authority is gone, which means like no one can ban you from accessing your data, from accessing a service. And also they can't censor you, which is a very like a huge step forward, because then no government has the power to censor information for their citizens. Like you can access the information from wherever you are, even if they close the whole internet of the country, you can still find ways to access the information. That's one of the huge benefits.
Wow. So where do you see opportunities with blockchain, in your industry?
So right now, like what blockchain has achieved very successfully
Right.
is decentralizing the financial world. I can pay you directly without involvement of a bank in between, right? Like
Right.
there's no middleman who can block the transaction. I can just pay in Bitcoin or Ethereum. But there is still a big gap, which is getting smaller, but it's still kind of big in, like in the data decentralization.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of other companies are also working on, like also like blockchain companies, protocol companies.
Right. Right.
So I think now getting the blockchain to be actually giving users the utility, which is like decentralizing other stuff other than financials, like
Right.
data, for example, that can be like something huge that is being worked on and that can mature over the next few years.
Right. Right on. So, so what advice do you have for founders? Let's say they're looking to learn more about blockchain, or even potentially build a new startup. Any advice you may have?
Yeah. So actually, like when we started Functionland, it was just two people, and we had a very small idea, like create an alternative to the Google Photos. That was the initial idea.
Right.
And then we added pieces to it, and it grew bigger, the team grew. So my advice is whatever idea you might have in your mind, just start building it, like put it out and see how people react to it. And as you speak to more people about your idea, as they see how you implemented it,
Right.
you can mature the idea, you can add missing pieces to it if there are, and you can get people interested. And when people get interested, you can like find the traction, find the investment that you need.
Right.
It probably like looks very hard in the beginning,
It does.
and even in the middle and in the end, like there's no end actually, but
Right.
but like it's about getting something out. That's what the focus should be.
For sure, for sure. Talk about the teaming up. Of course, you've been building your team and everything. Do you have any advice for founders in terms of just building those early team members? Any tips you may have there?
So I can just speak from my experience, like the way that we expanded our team initially. It was through people who were passionate about the project. Like
Right.
some of the people that joined us in the beginning, because we were like a small startup. We are still, but at that time our budget was very limited.
True, true.
So they joined us out of passion. Like most of us who were working early in the project, we weren't even getting paid. So
Right, right. Oh, for sure.
it was just like people joined out of passion and contributed to the project.
Right.
So that was the main thing. And I believe that's one of the main differences between even the mindset of Web 2 and Web 3. Like Web 3 is about collaboration, not just within a team, but between multiple teams. So we instead of fighting with other decentralized projects, we partnered with them. We used the pieces that they built into our project instead of building from the ground up and just like fight and compete with them. And that's the mindset in Web3. Like you partner with anyone, and the CEO of the largest Web3 company is just a link away from you. Like you can get a calendar link to anyone in Web3. Like the CEO of Protocol Labs is one click away from you. That's not what's available in Web2. Like you probably, like as a startup, you can't get a meeting with the CEO of Google. That's impossible. So that mindset of Web3 is also very helpful to new founders. Like they can speak to people who are already in this industry very easily. They can mature like the idea in speaking with them. They can find members who are passionate about working in this industry, And like those are very big winning points for projects.
Right. So what's next for your team? What's next for Functionland?
Yeah. So the immediate next thing that we are focusing on is actually delivering the first batch by
Right.
end of this year. That's where we want to have a full working system so people can open their application, set up their hardware,
Right.
open Photos File Manager, which by the way are coming along very nicely. Like I think our file manager will be one of the best open source ones out there. But so that's the very immediate next step.
Right.
But in the next year, what we have in mind is to partner with some other projects like Brave and Unstoppable Domains to also add a feature in our protocol, which is hosting your own website on your device without owning, basically without purchasing a domain name, a central domain name, or the hosting. So then it enables you to just besides having applications, you host your own website, which is a big win for not just individuals, but I believe for the governments as well, because right now the governments are paying a lot for their infrastructure for hosting their websites and services. This can decentralize it, which reduces the load for one central server. Also, this reduces the environmental impact that central servers have. For Google to provide you a service, they need to basically create these large data centers, implement these big coolants that both have very huge environmental impacts. For you to host your data, your website, your everything, it's like your corner of the desk with a small piece of hardware. It doesn't require any coolant. The electricity is like very low power. It's not that much. So it also reduces the environmental impact of our data, which is growing. Like our data is growing very fast, and keeping them on central servers is not sustainable. So in our roadmap, we want to add pieces to enable us to decentralize all of our data. So first we started with applications, then websites, and we go from there.
Right on. So for our audience that want to learn more about Functionland, where can they go?
Feel free to check out our website first. It's fx.land, fx.land. And if you like what you see there, then you can go to our GitHub. If you are a developer, feel free to check out our GitHub. It's github.com/functionland. And, contribute to the project if you see anything that you like there, or create issues, like ask for new features there. You can even in our GitHub right now, you can actually see the codes for our blockchain, for our protocol, for the applications.
Amazing.
You may want to use, like, for example, our Photos app integrated with your own backend. Just feel free to do it. Also, our Photos application and file manager application, it's FX Files and FX Photos with an F. It's available on Google Play right now.
Amazing.
So if you have an Android, feel free to download them and see how it works.
Awesome. Well, Ehsan, thank you so much for joining today, and thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for having me. And I hope to speak with you again.
Awesome.